everybody. How are you all doing today? Everybody good? Having a good time so far? Good. Well, thank you all for coming and for making time to chat with me a little bit about battling bureaucracy. This is all about keeping your data projects moving as we push them through large infrastructures and systems that, for the most part, are resistant to change. So that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk a little bit about the human aspects of data and really how do we make sure your stuff doesn't get squashed. My name is Juan Vasquez. Let's see, where's it? Well, up in the top right, you see @Juan Vasquez. That's my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle. Feel free to snap pictures of the slides, tweet about it, anything you think matters. Please share online. The clicker isn't working. There we go. All right. So the goal for today is for you all to feel more comfortable pushing through your data projects, being successful in them, and making sure they don't get squashed. We don't want things to also just die or get stalled. We will learn that as we move through government or large corporations, there are going to be people that don't understand the work that we do as data and technology professionals. So how do we get them comfortable with the subject matter? How do we get them excited and curious and get them to a place where they want to collaborate with us as opposed to stop progress and kill projects? Next slide, please. All right, a little bit about myself before we jump in. My career started in advertising agencies. So I started not as a technical person, I started on the relationship management end of things, of understanding what people wanted and creating projects around it and executing them successfully. After a few years working in advertising, I transitioned to a more technical aspect of the digital world as a digital strategy consultant. I've worked in political campaigns, I've worked in small nonprofits, always leveraging technology to grow community and to accomplish great things. Before joining the mayor's office, I was the social media lead at a technology company in downtown LA. I handled and oversaw a lot of the localization of the platform and also really thought about how social media could transition into actual business development. So metrics, funnels, analytics, all around social. And now I've been fortunate to work with, this is my great team, I'm right here. For those of you who don't know, this is our great mayor, Garcetti. And so for a year, I've been very fortunate to serve as the communications and data analyst for the operations innovation team. As Salim mentioned, that means I'm tasked with using storytelling and data analysis to improve government. We're focusing on three things: real estate, procurement, which is the practice of buying things, products and services, and lastly, we're focused on employee safety, so keeping city employees safer. If they get hurt, my team's working on bringing them back faster. I will talk about a few stories, so let's take a look at what we're talking about today. Next slide, please. All right, before we jump into some stories, let's define this term right here, bureaucrat. Anybody shout, if I say bureaucrat or bureaucracy, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Just shout out some random words.
Agencies.
Okay, agencies, what else? Great, okay, well that's unfortunate, but it's so true. Anything else? Bureaucracy, bureaucrats, what else do we think? Idiots, okay. We don't think creativity? Anybody agree? Creativity, does that come to mind when we talk about bureaucrats? No, right? Okay. So let's define that term. To me, in my words, bureaucrats are deeply entrenched in a system. They are really all about the process. They love process. Process dictates what they do and how they do it. They're apprehensive about change. It doesn't mean they won't change. It just means they're fearful or not really all about it. So we have to get them to a place where they will embrace it. In many situations, when it's time to make decisions, they will not focus on the people, they will focus on the process. And so it's important that as we think about data, we don't just think about systems and identifiers and APIs and shapefiles and polygons, but we're really thinking about how this fits into the way our friends the bureaucrats view this information. And lastly, they are definitely not limited to government. If anybody here works at a big banking institution, healthcare, academia, these type of individuals everywhere. And so, as young professionals in this field, I think it's important we learn how to deal with that. I'm gonna make a brief stop and just explain to you all for a minute why I do this. As you can see, I'm wearing my I am an immigrant t-shirt. I think it's very important that as professionals, and I see a lot of different folks in the room, we all embrace our stories and go out of our way to tell it. We're in a time where storytelling of our backgrounds is really important. So I want you all to know that I care about these issues and I care about getting you all to a place where you're also comfortable saying, hey, I'm not from this country and I'm a great professional and I do great work. And the fact that I'm an immigrant means nothing in regard to what I can or cannot do. So I encourage you all to do that. All right, circling back. Next slide, please. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to share with you 2 stories where we've had to battle bureaucracy to make progress, and then we'll just have some free-flowing discussion. Does that work? Can I get a thumbs up if that works? Cool, thumbs up. Next slide. Alright, the first story we're going to talk about is about my team's real estate initiative. So we were brought into the mayor's office about a year ago to build the city's real estate portfolio. Just think about this for a second. This is Los Angeles, right? The 2nd largest city in the country. We're talking about homelessness, we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about emergency disaster, you know, if earthquakes hit, things like that happen. And prior to my team getting here, we were managing our real estate using Google Docs, using Excel files. I think the most advanced system we found was an Access database. So Google Docs are great if we're going to go on a camping trip and we need to figure out who's bringing the hot dogs and who's bringing the charcoal. If we're LA, we should not be managing our land using Google Docs. Is that fair? So that was the goal. The problem was that there was a lack of context. Because the city was managing its assets in separate Google Docs and Excel files, you never really saw a complete picture as to what it all meant. What does a city-owned property in the south of Los Angeles, or in West Hollywood, or in the Bay, what does that mean within the context of the community? And how can policymakers really make decisions when all we have is an address and maybe a dollar figure, or in other cases we'll have a building name and maybe some notes that are just kind of unstructured text that we can't properly analyze, so it was very distributed. And so what happened, the problem there is we lack context. That meant that real estate, an already politicized issue, again this is Los Angeles, 2nd largest city in the country, real estate really matters. Because there was no context and it was so decentralized, it made it so that politics muddied things up even more. Additionally, it just straight up created confusion. Who manages what? Where is the thing? Like, what is that address? We can't map any of these things, so people were just confused. And one thing I've learned working in government, anytime there's confusion, there's usually a lack of accountability. Things start falling through the gaps. Oh, who was responsible for that? We don't know because we're confused. And so these things, that the issues around lack of context manifested itself. This is where the bureaucracy comes in. We had people trying to kill our contracts, for example. We had deeply entrenched bureaucrats that instead of dedicating resources to helping us centralize the city's real estate portfolio, they were spending their time trying to halt our contract, for example. A contract to implement a system, or to bring on a contractor to do some custom analysis. They're just causing issues. Another way this confusion manifested itself is dealing with our bureaucrat friends. They would just have us, for example, just all kinds of random questions. And so I'm having to spend my time creating diagrams and educating folks instead of doing the data work that I was brought in to do. All of this starts halting progress. So when people are confused, when there's no accountability, people want to halt things and stop. So let's have a little more. Next slide. So before we got here, this is how the city viewed real estate. Now, how many people took Lyft or Uber to get here? I know I did. Okay. Within the last week, how many of y'all have like Google Mapped something, an address? Anybody? Most of us, right? So in our day-to-day, when we think about land and geography and where things are in relation to each other physically, we don't think in rows and columns. We don't think column A is the unique identifier, and column B is the assessed value, and column C is the zoning, and we're like, where is this geographically? What point in the physical map is that? So the opportunity we saw is to create more context. Let's move away from rows and columns. Next slide, please. Let's start with maps. Let's stop thinking about real estate as tables and spreadsheets. We started, anytime people had questions about real estate, this is how we initially started showing information. So now you start getting a sense of where they are within the greater context of the city. We additionally brought in community information, so it's not just about what's the address and a potential the value of the property, but it's also about, are there any economic development initiatives? Is it part of a neighborhood council, a business improvement district, for example? That's a particular piece of land where the business owners in that community have decided to come together to invest in making that area more business friendly. So we started piecing all of these things together. Additionally, we created guided filters so that if we were working with another agency or department and they asked us information about the city's real estate, if we provided them, this is built on Socrata. If you all go to data.lacity.org, you all can create accounts, you all can create your maps, you all can interact with the city's data and build visualizations around it. So we just started using that, but we applied it with guided filters. So this was our first version of getting people away from rows and columns and interacting with real estate in a way that makes more sense, which is maps. Next slide, please. This is not showing super well, but this is now the second version of the work that we're doing. So the city wanted to wrangle together its portfolio. We're almost done with it. We're now configuring it into a system, an asset management system that helps the city truly leverage its properties, learn about it. And so we took one thing further. If y'all can see the shiny little polygons over here, these are the shapes of the actual real estate assets. So we moved away from points, we went from rows and columns to points, to now, this is what it actually looks like. This is where the entrance is. This is potentially where a difficult part of the property to deal with. So we're helping people visualize and understand what this looks like in context to itself. Additionally, I would encourage everybody to go to this address, geohub.lacity.org. That's where the city houses all of its geospatial data. You can export so many shape files. I don't know that you can do any custom analysis there, but you can export all that information, pump it into your favorite platform, go do great things. So what we did was we pulled about 46 layer shape files from the GeoHub, things like hospitals, things like schools, things like domestic violence centers, corporate headquarters, child care. So now, as we're configuring the system and rolling out access to the council districts and the mayor's office and the relevant departments, they can very quickly run queries based on location or the potential size that they're looking for, but more importantly, they can view this within the context of the community. So by clicking here, all of a sudden we could, let's find all of the vacant lots in the 14th council district of Los Angeles. There are 15 council districts, by the way, in the city of Los Angeles, 15 council members. And so let's find the vacant lots in CD14, but let's look for ones that are really close to cultural and performing arts center, because we want to do some educational programming for our young communities. Or maybe we're doing an initiative around homelessness. Maybe we should consider things around domestic violence services, mental health services, dental health services. Now there's context. I think it's good. We can jump to the next slide, please. Alright, so that was story number one, real estate. We're facing issues. People are trying to kill our projects because they lack context around real estate. This next story focuses on our wellness and safety initiative, as we call it. We're tasked with keeping city employees safer, and if they do get hurt, how do we bring them back faster? The reason for this is last year, the city of Los Angeles spent close to $225 million in workers' compensation. That is largely somebody getting hurt, and then medical costs pile up, and then maybe they're out of their job for 6 months, and now we're paying them while they're out. Sometimes they get hurt, and it is very true. Sometimes there's fraud, sometimes we just honestly don't know. And so here, the problem that we faced was lack of actionable information. The department that is tasked with analyzing workers' compensation data, accident claims, they were basically providing information as Excel files looking at the last month of information, and you would get a handful of metrics, maybe a chart, and it went from one human being to another one through an email, and then we expected that receiving human being to open up the email, to download the file, and then, I don't know, I guess to ask it a handful of questions, or to feel good or bad about what he or she learned, and that was that. That is, to some extent, how we were approaching keeping people safer. And so that's a whole lot of just a lack of actionable information. For you analysis folks in the room, 1 month of information, we know that's rarely actionable for anything. I see we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to kind of just buzz through some of this real quick. So because we lacked actionable information, there was no clear starting point. Conversations were difficult because it's like, what do we really focus on? As I mentioned, 1 month of information, that's not actionable. That's not going to give us anything that we can truly bake into policy and operations to keep people safer. And because it was that one human being sending an email to another, there was no conversation. It was just, here's, use it, maybe don't, whatever. Next slide. So again, we're thinking about people's health and safety, as in rows and columns. This is the same exact image from before, but it's the same stuff. Basically, we're just looking rows and columns. Next slide. Hey, can you click it, please? There we go. This is just a give. Raise your hand if you've used Tableau. I got mad love for Tableau. Big advocate of it. It's free for students and nonprofits. Highly encourage you all to get up on it. So what we did was we created interactive dashboards for the top 8 departments, and then we went on a roadshow. We basically set up meetings with all of the general managers, all of the risk and safety folks, and we said, hey, come learn from us and also educate us, because we also need to learn. So we made it interactive with Tableau. You can drill down, so we can select this here, and this here, and this here, and the dashboard reacts, so we could really ask it some interesting, thoughtful questions. And we also looked at 12 months of data, which I would have rather be gone maybe back 5, but this was a great start compared to 1 month. And so what this led to was a whole bunch of really useful conversations. Next slide, please. I'll finish up this last story real quick. Now what's happening is the mayor is actually using our metrics in meetings with the general managers. Their annual reviews now have true metrics that are industry standards, that make sense, that are best practices. We're adding some metrics to the mayor's dashboard. So for those of you that don't know, I believe the link is like dashboard.lamayor.org, where he has some key metrics that he cares about. And I'm going to wrap up now. If you all have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at Juan Vasquez. These are 2 websites where you can find more about the work that I do. Here's my email. Feel free to take a picture of this. Do we have time for any questions? All right, so we now have 3 minutes for questions. Yeah?
You said you started out doing relations stuff, right? Did you just decide to do it anytime you got to school? How did you get that?
No. The opportunities that I came across forced me to make a decision of, do I teach myself some of this stuff? And so just as my jobs have progressed, I've had to learn. This is Alex. This is Alex Pudlin right here. Wave, Alex. This man works with me at the mayor's office. He's a true legit data scientist, and so I pick his brain a lot. He has a blog called I Got Charts. I recommend everybody go find it. He visualizes for fun. Like, he's posted up at the airport and visualizing things. So I learned from people like him. So everybody, surround yourselves with people that are smarter than you. Surround yourself with people that know stuff. Surround yourself with people that make you feel dumb. Like, when I talk to him, I feel so dumb sometimes, but that means I'm learning. So that's how I've gone about being more and more technical. Other questions? Sure. Great question. It took us about 2 months to do all the calculations and the actual dashboarding. We pulled data from 2 of the city's largest systems. Then we had to spend about a month lining up meetings with the top 8 departments. Then we would step into those meetings and they would be most of them were not super excited off the bat. Anytime you go into the bureaucracy with data, they're usually going to be expecting it to be, this is where you're messing up type conversation. So we had to spend a lot of time in the 30-minute or 1-hour conversation switching the frame and getting them to a place where they felt comfortable with us, where it was about knowledge sharing both ways. So we had some stuff to show them, they had some stuff to educate us, so we made sure that that was key. After we finished the 8 meetings, we met with the personnel department, which is the city entity that is responsible for keeping people safe. And now we're giving them all of our insights and telling them how and what they should report on. The mayor will be baking metrics into how he reviews the general managers. And lastly, the city council is one of the entities that can create policy. We're working with them to create a framework for how reporting should happen, both at the department level and at the personnel level. If you want to talk more about this, I'm happy to kind of fill in more gaps. But any other questions? Michael? I don't think I understand your question. One note, this is Michael Hollow, great human being. He saw that I was speaking here, and so he just hit me up and asked for a ticket. And so now he's here. I encourage you all to, if you see people in your network doing things, just reach out and be like, hey, can I be a part of it? That's it. Any more questions? Okay. In the back.
Thanks. How do you arrange the logic between the different dashboards? Because sometimes it's quite easy to do data visualization, but when you actually present it to the top leaders, they really pay attention to your logic.
Right. So the way we organized our logic was based on the series of questions that we know they asked first. So we started with the aiming to answer the questions that generated the most value for them, and slowly figured out if they asked, how many workers' compensation claims did we have last year? What's the second question that will follow after that? And then what's the third? And doing our best that visually we can guide that process. All right, I think that's it. That's my email. If you all want to hit me up after, social media also works. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.